We just explain how you end up in TikTok space. Why not any other platform?
So that's one piece of the puzzle. But the other piece is volume, because you can do that.
TikTok's algorithm, it's unpredictable, right? How do you build a strategy?
So TikTok as an algorithm works metrics in test audience and point structure.
What kind of creators that you look for and what kind of partnership that you look for?
This will depend on the niche, but it's not the amount of influence, it's the amount of piece of content.
And is there any specific structure that you normally advise the sellers to use it?
So AI is fantastic, but I would say right now is in isolation by itself.
So is there any platform that you recommend in order to create those influencer videos?
Ecom Squeezed podcast.
Welcome back to Ecom Squeezed. I'm your host, Sebastian, founder of Retail-Outsource. And today we have a very special guest. We're going to talk about the TikTok. And today joining us is Graeme Paddock. He's the co-founder of the Uptick, a TikTok commerce coaching and mentorship platform based in Australia. He have built, scaled, and exited multiple e-com-based brands, generating over 8 figures in revenue, and now dedicates his work to help brands harness TikTok Shop as a primary sales and discovery engine, driving results not just on TikTok, but there's a spillover on Amazon, Shopify, and beyond. So welcome to the show, Graeme.
Thank you. Thanks, Seb. I appreciate the kind introduction and love to chat about TikTok. Extremely passionate about it. So yes, I'm happy to be here today.
Great. So could you just explain how you end up in TikTok space? Because you have built some brand. Why TikTok? Why not any other platform?
Sure. So I actually have a heavy Amazon background. So I've built and sold multiple businesses, Amazon actually being the core focus. But the game back in 2015 to 2020 was very different to what it is right now, as most people in the e-commerce world will know. So how TikTok came about was, it was 2020, 2021. I, like a lot of brands on Amazon, was starting to get a bit fed up with, the PPC changes, the Chinese competition. It's like, how can I drive more attention to my brand without competing in a red ocean, which it was kind of becoming. Like so many products and brands that I created, I was first to market, but the copycats were there in a second as soon as you get success, right? And then TikTok was something that my business partner, actually his wife, was sort of playing around with for a bit. And we kind of realized that, actually this is a real attention creator here. And it was so uncanny that literally maybe only a couple of weeks after we spoke about, this TikTok thing's starting to take off, in regards to attention wise. We had one of our SKUs skyrocket in, like, we would normally maybe sell 10 or 20 a day. I think we did 300, 200, 500. And we're like, this is, when you get anomalies in a business and you're like, this doesn't make any sense. No sense whatsoever. No added PPC, like what is going on here? And in the end, we found that a creator, without being reached out to, without being paid for, did a video with our product in it. And our product was mentioned for about 4 seconds. And they spoke about what they're doing. The video had gone viral, but at the same time, this creator wasn't doing it for commission or anything because TikTok Shop wasn't even open back then. It was just because they enjoyed making content and they said, oh yeah, this thing's amazing. We're going to got it off Amazon. That's all it was. And so we're like, okay, that was luck. But what if you didn't have to rely on luck? Me and my business partner, Rafe, we are very much deep thinkers around systems and procedures. Like that's just how our brains work. So we're like, okay, how can we actually create this so it's not luck? Build a system for it. Let's have a look at exactly how it happened. How do they get virality? And so we went down this road. And then in doing that, not long after, TikTok Shop opened, and that changed the game completely because now the affiliates were so much easier to get in contact with. We were already ahead of the game because we worked out a system based on results, not guesswork, about what's necessary for success. And then our core focus went over to TikTok. And now all the businesses, we still run our own businesses today. So we're not an agency, we're coaching and mentoring. But because I'm always curious, like if you're so good at something, why don't you do it yourself, right? Well, we do. So we run multiple brands still, but TikTok is our core focus because it's organic discovery. I have heated debates with multiple people in the e-com world around TikTok is the only platform in the world where 1, I can be seen in isolation, and 2, I can grow organically, systematically. Everything else is paid for performance. So like Meta ads, I have to pay to play. Amazon PPC, I have to pay to play. TikTok, organically, if I know what I'm doing, I can grow my business. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because it's so much easier to launch brands in the world of TikTok organically if you know what you're doing. So that's our core focus now. And yeah, it's evolved from there. We're coaching and mentoring. I'm very lucky. I work with the biggest brands in the world now on TikTok and in direct partnership with TikTok USA. And that's only because of the results that we're getting but everything we do is systemized approach around 1, 2, 3, like anything. If you follow a system for success, don't reinvent the wheel. This is what's necessary for TikTok. So that's how we sort of shifted from Amazon e-commerce business owners to TikTok is our game now.
That's a very good background, Jeremy. And you mentioned about organic growth on TikTok. That's something I really want to dig into it later on.
Sure thing. Like I said, ask away any questions. Organic
people are throwing
is
money here and there,
no
to get there.
wrong way to do it.
Exactly. So means I deal with a lot of sellers, and they normally treat TikTok. Most of them, they are not on TikTok. These are big brands, and the one that who are there on TikTok is like they use it as a brand awareness, nothing more than that, and they don't treat it as a revenue channel or anything. So what will your comment to them? What will be your advice to them? Those kind of sellers who are on the fence.
I think that's correct. But what I do feel in the industry in general, the numbers are skewed in regards to the belief structure of the halo effect. And what I mean by that is I've heard brands say, oh, once you get it right on TikTok, we can get like a 20 to 30% increase on our halo effect from people seeing it on TikTok to buying it through Shopify, Google SEOs, or Amazon, or whatever it might be. In my experience, and I'm working with thousands of brands, it's a minimum 3 to 5x, not 30%, right? And this is a core thing that, again, through our partnership, that TikTok might not tell you directly, but there are now 180 million people in the US who spend an average of 3 hours a day on TikTok every day. It's the number one attention platform socially in the world and in America. So in America, the next best is 130 million users for YouTube and an average of about 2 hours a day, but that's long form content. So not only does TikTok have 30% more users every day, it also spends 50% more time on there. This is the core piece. So like Gary Vee is very famous of saying attention is currency, and that's so true. And that's the core focus because TikTok is pure discovery. But the piece that people don't realize is that of that 180 million users every day for 3 hours, there are about 100 million users who have registered to buy something through TikTok Shop. Because, not being disrespectful, but it's the way of the American consumer habits at the moment, 80 million, go on there for 3 hours a day and be like, you know what, I don't trust those Chinese dropshippers. I'm going to give my details and get ripped off. But I still discovered things I had no idea existed that I'll just go buy you on Amazon. I'll just go buy you through Shopify. So part of our whole coaching is actually, even though we focus on TikTok, I need to make sure you don't have a leaking bucket. Because if they see you on TikTok, then go over to Shopify or Amazon and the messaging is different, people are going to drop off, right? Or even if you're not on those platforms or in a substantial way in regards to how you show up with your A+ content, things like that, then yes, you're going to lose sales. So I would say to all brands who think about, oh, it's just brand awareness, they are right in regards to discovery, but there is a way to build your brand on TikTok to be an authority in your problem space. That is the core focus that brands need to put down on, which I see missed most of the time. They're too busy around, or I want to be brand awareness, but they're always trying to sell because they think it's just another platform where I'm just going to run ads on, or like I said, show up in that direction. And that is not the strategy at all for TikTok to really grow your business.
Great. And Jeremy, you have talked about on LinkedIn, this was one of your posts, you post around 250 shoppable videos a month and one being the benchmark. So how do you convince a seller, that kind of volume is achievable in terms of pushing videos?
Well, the thing is, though, it's all in the data. So again, don't guess. Understand that if you simplify TikTok, it is content and volume. That's it. The rest is just stuff. And what I mean by that is you need to make the right sort of content on your own brand channel and the affiliates that work with you to connect with your audience that will know you, like you, trust you, and take you from top of funnel, I had no idea who you are, to make a purchase decision. So that's one piece of the puzzle. But the other piece is volume, because you can do that and put up one video a month and be like, why aren't I getting any traction? But when we look into your niche, in your niche and the problem space you're serving in your avatar, your competitors are putting up a minimum of 100 videos a month and you're putting up 30. So you will never be seen. So there's a balance of, well, I don't guess. Maybe it's 250 shoppable videos, maybe it's 400, maybe it's only 50, depending on what you sell. So something like supplements, good luck launching something on supplements in the Amazon world, right? But again, it's getting more competitive on TikTok. You need to make more noise versus other things that we work in, like kids craft. There is not as much noise that you need to make. But the content needs to be great for both of them. And obviously they're different avatars. So it goes back to the data. You need to have a look at, right, in the space that I'm selling, show me all the competitors, where they are now, but also where they first started. Never compare your day one with someone else's day 1,000. Because again, you can learn so much from people who've been there before you. And this is how you benchmark out. This is what I need to do. So maybe it's 250 or maybe it's less, maybe it's more. But that's just the name of the game, right?
Great.
If you're like, look, all my competitors did 300 videos, but I'm only doing 30, then you'll never make it. That's okay.
True.
Don't hate the hater. That's just the game that you're in.
Yeah, it's a numbers game at the end of the day. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And I want to ask you about, TikTok's algorithm. It's unpredictable, right? How do you build a strategy? I mean, you can't say, okay, this kind of video is going viral. I need to keep that format, but the algorithm keep on changing. So how you adapt with that?
The algorithm is, yes, it's always evolving, but there are core components that never change. So the thing that we teach our audience is, and the members that we work with is, okay, first of all, you need to find out what sort of content frameworks are connecting with your audience. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I need to arbitrage niches that are already working. So if you know, okay, this is my brand and my product, I serve this sort of client. Good. With that sort of client, what else do they buy? Because whatever else they buy, I will then do all the research on TikTok to show me all the successful brands who are not competitors to me, but serve the same audience. And then I can break down the content frameworks and be like, right, well, if this is the sort of content that connected with the audience, could I create the same kind of content, but most importantly, tweak it to, of course, include my brand, my messaging, and the angles that I want to do. So one of the core pieces of the algorithm is, yes, it's always evolving, but you can always look at brands who are in the arena right now who are doing what you want to do. The other thing about it is understanding the point structure. So TikTok, as an algorithm, works metrics in test audience and point structure. So every piece of content that goes out to a test audience of 300 people. You need to get a certain amount of points to get to the next bucket, which is 1,000 people. And then the next bucket is 5,000. The next bucket's 20,000. That's how virality happens. In each bucket, there is a point structure for you to get out of. The points are given most for engagement, and at the same time too, not only engagement, but also rewatches. So a couple of really easy tips is, people are like, well, how do I get people to rewatch my content? Well, what if I made a series? So you know what? I'm going to make a series of XYZ, how to help with whatever. And that is obviously the problem space my product lives in. But when you get a video 7, it says, part 4, this is XYZ about how to help with things. If my video is engaging enough, you're going to be like, I missed out on part 1, part 2, and part 3. Didn't I? So I need to go back into your channel to rewatch these part 1, part 2, part 3, which will drive the algorithm to be like, oh, this is interesting. You're connecting with your audience. They're going back and rewatching more of your videos will show you to a bigger audience and a bigger audience. So there's simple hacks and stuff like that you can do. There's engagement baiting. There's so much stuff. Like a short story. I spoke with a guy. I won't mention his name because I've got permission, but really cool guy that I spoke on stage in Portugal last year. And it was funny. We jumped on and he's like, oh, Graeme, you're the TikTok guy. I'm like, great to meet you. He's like, I've gone viral. I'm like, amazing. Show me. Because I'm always learning too, right? So he had his own brand and he was an Amazon coach, but he had a fitness product. It's like these grips. I'm not a fitness guy, but I had these grips and whatever else for fitness. And he's like, have a look at it. And I'm looking at this video. It had 11 million views, which is just amazing. Wow. So I'm like, okay, I'm always learning. Show me. So in it, he had the video and it's him. He's going into the gym. He's got the products. He's using them. He's doing a workout. And I'm watching it. And I'm like, I don't see anything that's just can cause this kind of virality whatsoever. And then I look at the comments and it is just thousands and thousands of comments. And I'm like, okay, something's wrong here. In the video, and this is what he did without knowing it. But again, this is what he did. He's like, in the video, I said that, you know what? I'm having a 12-month anniversary sale. And anybody who comments down below that, you know what? I want one for free. I'll send you one out for free. However, only if nobody likes your comment in the next 24 hours. I'm like, can you repeat that? I don't get it. He goes, yeah. I put in there, I will give one of these things out for free, but only if nobody likes your comment in the next 24 hours. And he goes, the reason why I did that, he goes, I thought I'd get a few away and get a bit of engagement. And he goes, but I didn't want to give out too many. So I thought at the end, what I'll do, I'll just like them all myself or get my mate to do it. And then what is the 4 or 5 at the top, I'll give some out for free. But what he didn't bank on is that human nature like to ruin other people's day. So what happened is he would get people watch this video and be like, oh, there's some people down the bottom who've commented. I might just like their thing so they don't get one. And then those people would re-comment and go, you bastard, I'm putting it in again. You're like, you know what? I want one for free. Thousands of people kept saying, I want one for free. And all these people who just want to ruin other people's day keep going, nah, 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 nah. But what does the algorithm do? It doesn't read what it's like. Look at all the engagement. Look at all the views. Look at all the comments. So it went viral. I said to him, I go, how much money did you make? He goes, I made nothing. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, look, I went viral, but he goes, you should have seen the reviews later on and Google and hate mail and all sorts of stuff for his brand. So that was like, it was actually quite hilarious. But I'm like, so you went viral, that hurt your brand, but it's a clear example about if you can create engagement, not the example I gave you, but the algorithm will reward you. And nothing has changed from that whatsoever.
That's a very cool story, but with a bad outcome.
You can't make that up. Yeah. Honestly, I was in stitches when he's got like 11 million views and he goes, and from that I've got like 100 negative Google reviews from it.
That's crazy. That's anyway. Crazy. Yeah. And Jeremy, means I normally check a lot of forums, and one of the pain points of a seller who is entering on TikTok, mainly on the shop side, is the verification process. So it's kind of a really hassle. They don't get through the verification process. I assume you have seen a lot. So what will be your advice to get through that process quite easily?
Well, the question would be, are they an international seller or are they a local seller?
Local.
Yeah. So local seller is much easier. International is much harder. But the thing to understand is checking off your documents on application are 100% down to spacing and capitals. And I know this makes it very silly, but I've seen where people have put in the name of their LLC or corporation or partnership, but they've put it in lowercase, and then the document that you submit, which is your EIN document, is all in uppercase. It rejects you. It's all AI, right? And so these are the smallest things, but you need to make sure your ID stuff is identical. Also remember that because TikTok is growing so fast, they are so overwhelmed, there is so much done by AI that you can't speak to anybody. So even though it's a very simple thing, these are things that I would look at. Also understand that since the American ownership has come on board in the last few months, they have tightened up dramatically in regards to the verification process. So when it was purely under Chinese ownership, it was easy to get things through. There wasn't looked at as much, but maybe it's one of those things that, well, now the Americans own it, they're going to tighten things up. Well, they are. They're so stringent with everything. So I would just say triple check everything before you enter it and making sure that every single ID is identical. Because once you get a violation, even when you put an appeal in, the AI automatic, even if your answer is correct, they'll always reject your first one. Now, that's direct from TikTok. I have no idea why they're like, we don't have any idea why either, Graeme. This is AI. But literally, it could tell you to upload a document. You could upload the exact document and it'll reject it first time, every time. Don't know why.
Okay.
It's like Amazon Seller Central all over again. That's just what it is.
Version 2. And Jeremy, you mentioned about creator retention, something that you have spoken on LinkedIn, for example. What's a psychology behind keeping top creators loyal to the brand? And what does most brands get wrong about keeping that relationship?
Most brands get it wrong because they don't see it as a relationship. They see it as a gun for hire. So that's where they go wrong. The brands that get it right see it as a partnership. And through that, it's relationships. That's what it is. So the best brands that I work with have their own community. And through their own community, they're catching up with them on a weekly basis to show their community, hey guys, I'm on the front line too. I'm seeing these frameworks working amazingly. I think you need to try it because obviously if you can make more money, I make more money, everybody wins. So there's constant communication, there's training, and you create an environment that creators feel like they're part of your brand, not just a gun for hire. So quite simply, like I said, once you've got people on board to work with you, literally treat them as part of your family. And that will go so far. It's not just, it's not the influencer game, right? It's very much around a win-win scenario.
Great. Yes. So Jeremy, on the partnership, you mentioned partnership, right? So what kind of, always there's a commission or any kind of reward is involved in this partnership. So what, depending on, let's assume that it's a 7-figure brand and we want to push a specific launch. So in that scenario, what kind of creators that you look for and what kind of partnership that you look for?
Got it. So just in the world of the TikTok creators, it doesn't matter if you're a 7-figure brand. I've got 9-figure brands that I work with. The creators, they couldn't care less. I don't care because I only care what you're doing on TikTok. And this is a mistake. So many brands are like, I'm this big off TikTok. Good for you. The creators don't care. They care what's in it for them. Now, of course, if you're known off, it'll help in regards to social viability and content market fit. But the biggest thing about creators they look for is, yes, they want to make commission from what you're selling. So if you're new and you don't have the runs on the board yet, you need to show a clear pathway that you will have the runs on the board and you want to bring them on board with you to be part of that growth journey, right? That's piece number one, because otherwise you're just going to attract bad creators who can't get a job with anybody else. Because the creators, their biggest asset is their time and in return on their time. Why would I go with a new brand when I can go with an existing brand that I can see is already making money on the platform? That for me makes more sense to put my time and energy towards because I got a better return. Well, the only way I'd go with a new brand is maybe high commission, but the biggest piece about it is I can actually see the vision and the journey, right? I can see what you're doing. And this is all built out in the briefs and how you think things out, and also gamifying it. So we always say that, hey, when you work with us, this is what the commissions are. But when you reach a certain level, once you get this certain level, then we want to do X, Y, Z for you. So whether that's put you on a retainer, whether that's actually to highlight you, bonuses, there's so many things that we teach, but you want to gamify it, that creators feel like, you know what, I want to get to that next target, not just, oh, look, I need to make a certain amount of views to make money. And the reason why we do that is because I don't want to give my sample to a creator to make one video. It is exhausting trying to build a business like that. I want to give my product to a creator and I want them to feel like I'm going to make 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 videos, whatever it takes to get to that benchmark, because I want to achieve what's been laid out in regards to the flow and gamifying it. So there's some like core components to look at when you're dealing in the TikTok world, but also thinking about why would anyone want to work with you? Because if you're just another brand, it's like, hey, I just started out, I offer this much commission. You offer nothing. There's no, if everyone else is zigging, you need to zag. So you need to think, what am I doing differently? That why would I want to work with me as a creator, right? Yeah.
And Jeremy, you have worked with a lot of sellers, TikTok sellers. So what kind of, on the influencer side, what's the average number of influencers that you have seen they have a partnership?
Say that again.
For a TikTok seller, they might have a lot of influencers, right, promoting their product on TikTok, for example. So in that case, how many influencers will they have lined up to promote that product?
So again, this will depend on the niche, but it's not the amount of influence, it's the amount of piece of content. Because if all things were equal and you had 100 affiliates, I use the word affiliates, not influencers, because influence is like pay me and then I'll do something. Affiliates are like, oh no, I get paid when I get a result. So that's the TikTok world, right? So in the affiliate wise, we could both have 100. You could have 100 affiliates to make one video a day. Great. Or I could have 10 affiliates to make 20 videos a day. I will win because it's pieces of content on shoppable videos. But again, it's narrowing it down to understanding it's just content and volume. So again, with your 100 videos, how much of those videos are actually connecting with your audience? Because of the 100, if only 5 or 10 are because you haven't done the research, then I might only make 30 videos, but if all 30 connect with my audience, I'll still win, right? So you can't narrow it down to how many creators. It's always the more the better, but at the same time too, it's like how good is the content connecting with my audience and how many videos can I get out of each creator? Because the shoppable videos is the number you want to track.
Great, Jeremy. And, TikTok have a lot of promotional tools, like, same like on Amazon, like deals, vouchers, flash sales, bundles, a lot of offers. So would you recommend the sellers to use that? And is there any specific structure that you normally, advise the sellers to use it? Or it depends on the seller or category?
No, I think they should use all of them only once you've achieved organic fit. Because respectfully, TikTok will take your money, whether you have great content or not, and they'll find a way to spend it. But the true return is only when you built your foundations correctly. And if you cannot grow your business organically, you won't grow it with ad spend. And I don't care what promotions they have on there, they will not show it to the masses because you haven't connected yet. So organic fit first, and then use all those things that they give you to put fuel onto a fire that you've already got burning.
Great. And you mentioned on LinkedIn, this is exactly your sentence. If your TikTok is not driving sales on Amazon, you are not doing it. You are doing it wrong. So could you explain that?
Yeah, sure thing. So the biggest piece about it is understanding the halo effect is something where TikTok won't talk about, but the stats are the stats, right? If you get attention from TikTok consumers will buy where they choose to buy. And 100%, if they have a trust with Amazon and they like the next day delivery and they like the thing that there's a problem that I get next day returns, I can do all that. I don't got to worry about giving my details out to a new platform like TikTok Shop, which they might not have created on yet. What I'm saying about getting it wrong is brands who go on TikTok and promote to TikTok Shop other than promote their product. Understand, I want to put my product and I want to create the demand. And that's the core component here. You're creating the demand, but I'm creating for my demand for my product that a consumer then can buy where you choose to buy. Now, yes, you can click the button down below, go buy on TikTok Shop, or I can go to Amazon or Shopify. I don't care where you buy it from. I just want you to know that here is a solution to a problem you may not already know you had. And like, that's the real art of TikTok. You create the demand, but even better, you show people a problem they didn't even realize they had. You put it in front of their face and you happen to be the solution as well. So that's what I mean specifically, is that brands go wrong when they go on TikTok, create content to try and only drive to TikTok. That is a mistake.
Great. And you mentioned about the halo effect, right? So how is there any way to track, that it's a spillover from, the influencers or anything like that? Is there any, like, Amazon attribute is there? But in some cases, people just watch the video and then go to Amazon and then search the brand name or, find the product and buy it. So is there any specific tool that we can track it accurately? What is that spillover like?
No, it's actually impossible, because but it's impossible to get accurately, but it's possible to get a very close estimate, which I'll explain. So what I mean by that is it is impossible in any way to track that you saw something on TikTok a couple of weeks ago and you remembered it now and be like, oh, I'll just Google it and I'll buy it through Amazon. Like, it's impossible, right? But what you can do is understand that on a monthly basis, you would have in your business certain budgets with nothing else changing. So almost like going back to the story I mentioned earlier, that I know roughly on a monthly basis, I spend this much on PPC. These are my organic sales. These are my paid sales. And I have like a watermark, sometimes a bit better, sometimes a bit worse times a year, but I've got an idea, right? If nothing else changed in your business other than the attention you get from TikTok, and you have a southern organic increase way above what we normally would, where else could it have come from, right? So this is the piece where it's like, you need to understand metrics wise where I stand right now across every piece, every SKU, what are the organics, what are the paid on an average basis. And then from there, I can get a close estimate by the TikTok presence I've had has driven my Amazon sales up by XYZ based on, again, where else could these organic sales have come from? Because literally, it's the discovery mode of TikTok, which no other platform has. No other platform has pure discovery because everything is buyer intent. The only reason SEO works is because I already typed in what I'm looking for, so I know that, right? The only reason PPC works and Amazon works is because of a keyword linked to an intention of a purchase that I already want to make. So it's all intent-based. TikTok is like, I'm not here to buy anything. I'm here to be educated and entertained. And the craft is, how do I get my product in front of them? I'm like, great idea. I never thought of that. That's the difference, right? And so that's literally how we do a best estimate. But there is no, I've heard people say that there is a way, and I would challenge it that accurately there's not.
Yeah, means I've spoken with a lot of other, people on the space, on the TikTok space. They all say the same thing. It's very hard to get that because it's what's in their mind, right? And they are maybe using it maybe 2 or 3 days. We don't know.
For something that you could, like I said, there might be a way, like I said, if you did it immediately, but you see things, like I said, a couple of weeks ago, that's just, you saw, but it's just not top of mind. You're like, oh, that's right, I should get that. And I saw it on TikTok and you just Google search away. You couldn't track that. It's not possible. So
exactly.
Yeah, but you can get a rough or close estimate based on the method I mentioned.
Great. And Jeremy, on Amazon, the CPCs are going crazy, especially on the supplement side. So how does it looks like on the TikTok shop, on the advertising side? How is that, CPC good compared to Amazon's one?
It's better, but it's getting more and more competitive. But again, it's not something that you want to actually focus on. You want to focus on organic fit, because if you get that right, everything else is much easier. Like, your CPC is much harder when your content's not connecting, right? So a lot of people talk about GMV max and whatever else, but the AI in GMV max can only draw from the content that you have. And like anything, you know what? Your output will only be as good as your input. So yes, in the supplement niche, it's getting harder because there's more competition, but it's much easier if you have fantastic content, right? So everything goes back to that.
Great. And Jeremy, you mentioned a few times organic. Right? Could you just break it down? How does that organic
Yeah.
workflow look like?
Yeah. So the organic side of things is posting things on TikTok without any ad spend and letting the algorithm decide that, you know what, this is adding enough value to our consumers and hitting enough metrics in the benchmarks I spoke about to get it out to potential virality. And so once you start moving through those buckets, if I put ad spend behind something like that, it moves through the buckets much quicker because yes, the ad money pushes it out to a bigger audience, but the bigger audience is also connecting with that piece of content, which shows it to more. So that way I've got fuel onto a fire that's already burning. But if you try and put ad spend behind pieces of content that were made for Instagram and Meta and were all about the sell and, you know, the value stack, we're like, hey, XYZ, but today it's this much, like it's just horrible. The slogan for TikTok is don't make ads, make TikToks, right? Yet so many brands still want to come on here and all they want to do is sell their stuff. Your whole concentration needs to be on how can your brand be seen as an expert in the problem space a product lives in? And then if you can be seen as the expert, everything is downstream from there. Everything is much easier because when your creators make content, it's connected to your brand. You are the expert in the space and you've added value to the platform and the consumers who've seen you a few times or your brand a few times. We're like, oh yeah, I've seen that quite a few times. Yeah. So this is a methodology is everything is organic, as I've mentioned multiple times, because that is the TikTok platform itself. Ad spend is an accentuation of that. But if you come into the platform, be like, hey, I've got a big budget, I just want to accelerate quicker with ad spend, you'll just spin your circles. I've worked with brands who've got $1 million a month budgets who thought they could spend on TikTok and actually tried before we started spending time together, and they wasted their money because you can't. They'll take your money. Don't worry about that. TikTok will. And you'll get a little bit of a boost and you'll be back down here again. Yeah. It's not how you build a business there.
Great. And AI is making a lot of move. I have seen a lot of people creating influencers using AI and had a lot of followers. Is that something that you have seen, changing that trend, instead of relying on real human, changing to AI? If you change to AI, what's kind of the success rate? Is that the same like what you can see on a human being?
No. So, all right, well, apples for apples, if you just had creators versus fake creators with AI, at the moment with the current technology, even though it's evolving so fast, the real creators will crush it. All right, because AI is still too perfect and polished. Because even though it might seem like a real human being, there are things that a human being would do that an AI can't. So because of that, and I mean that in their mannerisms, in their like coughing for a moment and then just talking and like moving silly or like, you know what, what's going on here? You're like those sort of things. That's what TikTok is, right? Where AI doesn't have the ability to do that yet. The best brands that are using AI and the best brands that are using AI are using it in conjunction with creators. So this is why in branding in general, you need to be seen 7 to 10 times for someone to know you, like you, trust you, right? I had no idea who you are, but I need 7 to 10 touch points for them to get to, I trust you enough now to make a decision. So in the world of TikTok, it's 5.4. And the reason why is because the amount of time that people are on there, it lessens. But this is the biggest key. If a consumer on TikTok, just say it's 6 for easy numbers, needs to see your brand 6 times to know you, like you, trust you to make a purchase decision. If I can use AI to fill up half that bucket, so if I can get AI to create 3 pieces of content for me, and I can get real creators with a CTA content to make the other 3, no consumer, when they're looking at a creator's piece of content, says, oh, you know what, I've seen that brand everywhere. But actually the first 3 pieces were with AI. It doesn't work like that, right? So AI is great for building content in top of funnel, but I don't coach on it for conversion. So I get creators to make content built around conversion, and I use AI and different structures and frameworks that we have to build content around the problem space your product lives in an educational basis. Maybe it's carousels, maybe like this behind the scenes and all sorts of stuff you can do with AI, sometimes with creators, of course, but it's more around the educational space to show you're an expert or your brand is. So then the creators, it's like, oh, okay, cool. They've helped with your touch points to get a decision. So AI is fantastic, but I would say right now is in isolation by itself. I don't know any brand who's done that only. They might be doing that only now, but they didn't start that.
Great. Yeah. I think that's going to change, as time passes, it might look more natural, as you said, with the small mistakes and stuff like that.
Exactly. But for now, I'm just saying, like I said, that's where we are right now. But you're right. Things are evolving very fast that what I'm talking about right now could be irrelevant in 3 months. Like it moves so fast.
So you mentioned about supplementing with the real creators, right? So is there any platform that you recommend in order to create those influencer videos? AI platforms for
The
the video.
AI.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but we use multiple. So like HeyGen is a good start, but then it's a complicated framework to work through in the
Right.
fact that the voiceovers aren't the great on the platform, although the images are very good. So it's one of those things where I couldn't recommend one platform, but if you were to use one platform, HeyGen would be the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, in our mentorship, we teach there's multiple platforms you need to put together to actually get something as realistic as possible. I think the biggest key is don't make AI content for conversion. That would be quite simple because it's much easier to build AI content around educating and entertaining versus trying to sell something.
Great. And Jeremy, you mentioned about the coaching program that you have. Do you want to explain, what is that and who can benefit from it?
Yeah. Oh, well, it's our core business. So what we do is we coach multiple agencies because a lot of agencies who've got great relationship with clients and help them for years in PPC and Amazon, and Meta SEO. TikTok's a different game. So their existing clients, because of relationships, they're like, oh no, we want to do TikTok now. And of course the agency's like, I'd love to do it for you. So then we coach the agencies, and what they do, they white label all of our systems, procedures, and then they execute for their clients. So that's one piece of our business. And the other piece is working with existing brand owners. So we don't work with people who are like, I'm trying to find the next $1 million product. That's just not our fit. But if you have an existing brand, especially so many Amazon sellers, because the biggest conversation is like, how do I get away from the competition? And how do I, get myself to a stage where I'm not seen in competition? Yes, but also the competitors on there and the price points and all that sort of stuff, TikTok and the attention, right? So what we do is work with existing brand owners, yes, Amazon, Shopify, other areas, and we say, right, this is exactly what you need to do. No guesswork to be successful in the next 6 to 12 months. And we break it down into benchmarks. So we have a university which has a library of everything that you need to know about TikTok from a foundation level, but it is never one size fits all. Like for your brand, for your niche, not roughly, I want to know exactly what I need to do. Like there's nothing worse. You know how you join some webinars or even some podcasts and like, that sounds great. And you walk away, you're like, where do I start? Like, what do I do next? Yeah. So in our mentorship, no excuses. In our playbook, yes, you have a university, but we show you week by week, there's the exact action steps you need to do to build your business. And then through that, we do one-on-one coaching. So I have group calls as well. I'm a big believer in like, don't just tell me, show me, right? So I have multiple brands doing 100 grand a week on TikTok. Great, show me. Because you can learn so much in our membership in the fact that I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I can see how they're doing 100 grand a week with these videos. This is ridiculous. But most importantly, how have they done that? And what can I learn that I can do with my brand? What are the hooks, CTAs, middle content? How can I reproduce this? So we have weekly calls that I break all that down, myself, my business partner, that people learn from. And also we have like Ask Me Anything section. So yeah, a lot of one-on-one coaching, a lot of group calls. We're always learning as well. I'm very privileged, and I say that, and I really mean I'm so privileged that, like I said, because I work with so many brands that we've helped get success, they've also got success because they had good brands and they did the work. Like nothing happened unless you do the work, right? But I'm always learning. So I'm very lucky that with my members, we know at a helicopter view over the hundreds of brands that we consult with, what's working and what's shifting. So we're always on the front line. I don't got to worry about, I've got to try and figure out the next trend. I know what the next trend is because we're seeing it with our members. And then we recreate that for others within our community. So that's our system, and that's how we work. 100%. And it's a fast feedback loop because, again, it's not just one or two brands that I'm consulting with. It's multiple agencies, brands, and some doing some crazy figures, which is amazing for them.
Great. Jeremy, it's fantastic to talk with you, and thanks a lot for sharing all these wonderful things. And even I learned about the buckets that you mentioned about the virality and everything. I need to look into it. Actually, it's quite curious. But again, thanks a lot for sharing and all these tips.
Yeah, no, thanks for having us on. And like, if anyone's curious and wants to learn more, and even if they just want to have a chat around, hey, I don't even know if my product's a right fit for TikTok, you can jump on our website. I'm sure you'll put it here somewhere, but it's theuptick.com. So UPTIK. But yeah, you can book a discovery call there, have a look about what we do, and happy to jump on with anyone to say that, hey, you are a fit, whether you work with us or not, but the product is a fit for the platform. And if I believe honestly that you've got a real good chance of scaling the business. So yeah, happy to help anyone if needed.
Great. So what I will do, I will put the LinkedIn profile and also the Uptick website link as well in the show notes. So please do check it out. Thanks a lot again for coming down, Jeremy.
Thanks for having me. I had a ball, and as you can see, I love the TikTok world. So no worries at all.
Great. Thank you.